Welcome into basketball by association. My name is Arky Shea. That is Joel Cordes. Joel, what is going on, brother?
Well, I just want to make sure you're not having a stroke, but otherwise we're
Hey,
doing
hey,
well.
hey, hey,
This is
hey,
this is
hey.
episode 144, and we got a lot of playoffs to talk about. This is true. However, we got to name the episode real quick. We could go for Reggie Miller, but I know you're not going to go for Reggie Miller because you're a Knicks fan
Hell
and
no, never,
not going for Reggie Miller.
never Reggie.
We could go for a guy who is in the NBA, technically still, though he hasn't played much in a while. 144 career playoff games is pretty impressive. I did not realize George Hill, who is old, but not that old, had
George Hill's
already
still in the
reached
league?
that. He was on the Bucks. I don't know if he's been on the
Right.
active playoff roster or whether he got released mid-season. I didn't keep up on that one.
Okay.
But he was in a Bucks uniform earlier this year. I do remember seeing games. But instead, we will get another guy who was around for a long time, played until he was 40, in fact, came into the league with the Chicago Bulls in 1985 as a 22-year-old. And he's just a one-time All-Star, though he was on the 85-86 rookie team, a two-time all-defensive player, but should be somebody near and dear to your heart, Arky Shea, but not near and dear to the owner's heart of the team that you like to follow, because they've had a bit of a riff. Like, I could go through all the different places that this gentleman has played. He was on the Bulls for 3 seasons. He was in New York for 10 seasons. He was with the Raptors for 3 seasons, then went back to the Bulls at age 38 in 01-02. Did a season with the Wizards that no one remembers, though he was paired up with a buddy there. And in Houston, 7 games in 03-04. That was the end of his career. You got to know who this one is.
Who was on the Knicks for 10 years? I feel like I'm drawing a blank. Who is this?
Your guy doesn't like him. I guess he's not your guy. Your owner does not like him, even though he should. He should be feted and loved, and yet your owner once threw this guy out of the arena.
Is that Charles? What? No,
it's Charles Oakley. Yeah, it's Charles Oakley.
He was on the 85-86 rookie team?
He was.
Huh.
With the Chicago Bulls, where he did 3 seasons as Michael Jordan's enforcer, then went and did some nasty things in New York for 10 years. And that 02-03 season with the Washington Wizards, nobody remembers it, but yeah, he was back with Michael Jordan for 42 games.
Yeah. Charles Oakley might as well have been 130 that year. Those two that, I mean, good Lord. He was.
Might as well have been, probably was.
That's true. We'll never know how old Charles Oakley was until he passes, and then we do a cutting of his trunk and find out how many circles and rings are around.
It's the Manute Bol effect, right? Nobody really knew how old Manute was.
All right. Well, hey, I don't have any problem having this be the Charles Oakley episode. So.
I figured you'd probably rather have Charles than Reggie. I just had an inkling that you probably would.
Yeah, I got 2 favorite Charleses, Barkley and Oakley, and I'll take them over just about any other Charles and Chuck that I know. In fact,
and by the way, George Hill not on the Bucks roster as of right now. He was earlier in the season, so he must have been released midway through the year when they started to shuffle the deck a little bit.
Well, all right. Well, we'll try to do this up right for you, Mr. Oakley. Mr. Joel C. Cordes, let's talk a little National Basketball Association of America. Let's get to the playoffs, but real briefly first, controversy. Joel Embiid is your National Basketball Association MVP, not Nikola Jokic, and the NBA, Joel, has gone woke. It has gone so woke that a white European is unable to win this award for the 3rd straight season. Joel, I got to be honest with you. I never thought the NBA would go this way. I never thought they would go this far to give it to someone just because of the politics.
Yeah, that must be it.
I just want to. We don't have to spend a lot of time on this because I think Joel Embiid is a worthy NBA MVP for this. He had a wonderful season. He's had a bunch of wonderful seasons that have been worthy of this award. I will say this as far as the controversy around it. I think there is something to be said for the voters not wanting someone to go 3 straight years and it to be Nikola Jokic, to be sort of that guy, to be along that very tiny lineage of 3-time MVPs, especially back to back to back.
I agree with you. I've got mixed emotions on this one.
But NBA voters are notorious for this. Like they just do this all the time.
Yes, and I do think it's a cumulative MVP for Joel Embiid. He did lead the league in scoring this year. He did stay healthier than he has been in a long time, and yet not 100% healthy, as we saw in Game 2 and Game 1 of this series. And he missed games throughout the regular season as well. Joel Embiid has deserved this for a while. He's been the front runner multiple times and then had injuries cut short that running. So the fact that he was able to stay healthy and lead the league in scoring, it does feel like, hey, we got to get him this one. He's been on the cusp of this for a while. Let's get it to him while he's still upright, because you just don't know how long that actually will be for Embiid. But the mixed emotion comes with this. And I was more on the fence and leaning towards Embiid for a long time, but then I heard this stat. It was a couple weeks ago. The Denver Nuggets in net rating were the best team in the league by a landslide when Nikola Jokic plays. They were the worst team in the league in net rating when Nikola Jokic sat. I know that we can't always boil things down to one stat and one stat alone, but Nikola Jokic has all the other stats to back it up. The eyeball test shows us a ton. I know that that Jokic hasn't won a championship. He hasn't been to the NBA Finals. Neither has Joel Embiid. But that stat right there, I don't know how you can argue against anyone being more valuable to their team than Nikola Jokic when you talk about that net rating. And again, you can make stats say whatever you want, but that one seemed pretty definitive to me. So mixed emotion where I heard that and I was like, ooh, actually, it probably should be Jokic again. And I do think it probably should have been, but I understand Embiid getting it.
And Jokic, but both these two guys are deserving, right? Yeah. Maybe you could argue very easily Jokic had a better overall season and was more impactful to sort of his team and the position they were, obviously being tops in the West this season. But
although the Sixers won 54 games and the Nuggets won 53, so
yeah. Oh, listen, I have no problem with either one, right? Mm-hmm. I just think that this was if the voters had a good enough excuse for it to not be a 3 straight time honky winning the NBA MVP, then they were going to do it. Because listen, Jokic is as probably to the mainstream boring of an MVP you could possibly get, right? His market where he's in, like if Jokic is in Philadelphia, for example, I don't think he's nearly as quiet as far as people being able to see him. It's just sort of where he's at. So I'm 100% on board with you. Both these guys are deserving. Jokic probably a little bit more so, and he probably gets my vote this year if I was able to vote.
Yeah, agreed.
But, it's hard to argue against Joel Embiid as someone who actually led the league in scoring. And there's a little bit of a cumulative effect. I agree with you on that too. There's a little bit of this guy's been really, really good and close for a while now. Mm-hmm. If he has a really, really good season like this, maybe we vote him number 1 instead of number 2, for example.
And the optics of it, of course, are terrible because he gets it and he's hurt. And then he comes back in game 2 and was effective in controlling the rim with shot blocking, but that was really about it. And minus 23 when he's on the floor. Not his fault. He's hurt and he's lugging around a bum knee. But we've seen that from Joel Embiid way too many times, especially as you get late into the playoffs and he's broken down. It is what it is. But that's not going to help those who are, crying foul that Jokic didn't get it a third time, or that somebody else along the way maybe wasn't in the running. Although the other guys, Giannis Antetokounmpo, Ja Morant, they're not in the playoffs anymore. And that was pretty much it. Jason Tatum, I don't think gets the same respect because we see him as a very, very, very good player, but he's really a scorer. And Embiid and Jokic, Embiid especially does it on both ends of the floor. Jokic, we know, is offensively a hub, but defensively maybe not as dominant except for the rebounding.
60 seconds or less, speaking on that point. Do you think this should be a regular season award? You vote after the regular season and do not consider the playoffs?
Yeah, I think we should have a playoff MVP. We should have a regular season MVP. I get the playoffs are a little bit tough because some guys will play longer than others, and maybe that's just noise at that point. And so the finals MVP is enough to encapsulate whoever reached the pinnacle and was the best player at the pinnacle.
Yeah,
That's
but some
fine.
of
But
those guys that win are like the dude just for that series, right?
I
Like
do think it should be very official. This is the regular season MVP, and you receive that award as soon as game 82 is done. We don't need to draw this out with the theatrics that the NBA has currently been doing, which does send a mixed messaging that it's somehow about the regular season and the playoffs. And we've seen this happen many times before. You know, Dirk Nowitzki got his MVP while his team was getting bounced by the We Believe Warriors in the first round in a historic upset. It wasn't really, it was terrible optics. We've seen this happen before where guys get it and their team loses that very round. So yeah, give it after game 82 and let's move on.
Okay, fine. Let us move on. If that's what you're talking about, fine. Okay, let's do it. Let's talk about the Embiidless Philadelphia 76ers and how maybe Joel Embiid's important to be able to, not lose by 40 in Boston. Boston's a very good team, gets a very good win to even the series.
Mm-hmm.
Surprising that James Harden doesn't go for 45 again in the second game. I think he's minus 21 on the night. Not the best. But he does go for an even dozen. So that's a number that you say will score.
That is a number.
I give Harden credit for this. He scores 45 and he's great in game one. And he does after the game said, it's just one game, bro. Let's relax. I give him a little bit of credit for being like, hey, you know how far I've been down this road with teams over and over and over again. Don't do this to me again. Joe Boston and Philadelphia have even that series one apiece. How do you think it's gone so far? What do you see that stood out from you besides the fact that the tallest dude for Philadelphia doesn't get to play?
I thought in game one, which the Sixers won, not having Embiid kind of set the Celtics scrambling a little bit. The Sixers were able to move the ball a lot more, and they were knocking down shots. They had DeAnthony Melton come off the bench, gave him a huge list. Tobias Harris had a really nice game. Maxey had a good game. Harden had a fantastic game. Kind of stepping back into his old role that he had with the Houston Rockets, right? Where Harden was going to dominate the ball, get to the rim, but also be a distributor for all those shooters. And the Sixers, without Embiid, were kind of set up to do that for one game. Was that really going to be sustainable for a long time? I don't know. But in game two, Embiid comes back and they become a much more conventional team to guard. And especially with an Embiid who is not healthy and is kind of loping around where, yeah, he can park himself under the rim and he got some really nice blocked shots. But the Celtics were shooting the lights out from downtown, especially in the second half. And Embiid's rim protection didn't really mean anything. Yes, he gave them 15 points. He had a couple of nice moves, but only 3 rebounds. He was not himself. It was very obvious. Paul Reed coming off the bench only played 16 minutes. He was okay. They're probably going to need more of Reed and less of Embiid until Embiid is healthy. But how long can you play that game in a series against a Boston Celtics team that is as deep as anybody in the league? You saw that Peyton Pritchard comes off the bench 12 minutes in garbage time, gives them 8 points, and is just lighting up the Sixers second unit where you're going, my goodness, Peyton Pritchard looks better than every other second stringer on the floor right now. He should be in the lineup. Oh, wait, he's not, because the Celtics have Marcus Smart, Derek White, Malcolm Brogdon, and Jason Tatum. I'm missing somebody in there as well, all filling the guard roles. Like, they just have so many great guards this year, and you saw that on display as the Celtics move the basketball. They dust off Grant Williams for 29 minutes. Williams, I think, played only garbage time in the first round, didn't do anything in game one. And the Celtics make an adjustment. Williams came in, was phenomenally impactful, plus 22, knocked down some big shots. He was 4 of 8 from downtown, but offensive rebounding, played great defense when he was in there. The Celtics just have all these different options to bring forward. So Doc Rivers wanted to make it about, the Celtics just out hustled us. They hit us in the mouth. We didn't hustle. There was some of that. I agree. the Sixers 41 rebounds, the Celtics 46. The bigger news is that the Celtics get 92 shot attempts. The Sixers only get 79.
92.
Yeah.
92. And the other night, Denver had like 101 or something like that. Yeah. So, like, some of these teams can put them up. But I'm with you. I thought that was a great thing to hear from Doc Rivers when I was listening to it. It's just like, if we just tried a little harder, that's all it took. Just running a little harder,
I
just
disagree.
a little bit harder. Yeah. We wouldn't have lost by, what was it, 35 points, 34 points in that game. Just a little bit more hustle, guys. Like, no, that's no.
No, it was, the Sixers were much easier to guard. The Celtics had a great shooting night. It is damning that when Doc Rivers is cycling through bench players trying to find energy, and Embiid is, hurting at the center spot, you don't give Paul Reed more minutes. You don't give Dwayne Dedmon, who you signed as a relief veteran, you don't give him a look until garbage time. Montrezl Harrell, who is supposed to be energy incarnate, was the only guy on the Sixers roster who did not get to play in that game. And Harrell has fallen out. He was the backup center earlier in the year. He has fallen out of the rotation completely to where he's not even getting garbage time. And this has happened to Montrezl Harrell now in like his last 4 stops. Like, I think he's about out of the league. And it's usually been locker room and attitude issue, is at least what the rumors have been. And for him to not get in a game where, hey, somebody come in and jumpstart us, give us some rebounds. I need hustle. I'm Doc Rivers. I need hustle, but I'm not going to play my hustle guy. Yeah.
It's telling. It's also not the reason the team lost. That it was because of hustle. Like, if that's all it took, you put in the guy that, if nothing else on the court, is known for being a dog on the court, right? Like, no. So they'll move on to game 3 and head on to the sweet city of brotherly love. But let's go down by the bay and check out where the Lakers find themselves winning 1-0 series lead. They played tonight, I think, after winning on Tuesday night. We record these things usually on Thursdays. They beat Golden State 117-112. We've now seen Golden State lose 2 home playoff games this season, which is I think higher than the average we were probably expecting, what we saw throughout the regular season. We won't talk anything really about the Sacramento. I was disappointed in Sacramento in Game 7. Great fight and resiliency in Game 6. Game 7 just... Steph Curry,
the veterancy of the Warriors came out, as we were afraid it probably would.
Yeah, and I thought it would come out sooner, but then Steph Curry just blows up everything and does something that we've literally never seen before. So,
except for all the other times Curry does stuff like it. I know it was a historic number and all that, but we've seen Steph do this way too many times.
We have, whether it's putting up 1,000 in a quarter or 1,000 in a game, like he does something like this. And now they move on, obviously, against the Lakers. So the Lakers get that first win, 117-112. They'll play again tonight, Thursday night, if you're, depending on whenever you're listening and seeing this. Joel, what did you take from Game 1 and the Lakers being able to win on the road? I was thoroughly impressed. I thought a little bit of them having a little bit more rest helped them. But I don't think it was just that. Am I wrong?
No, it's impressive that the Lakers, who were only 6 of 25 from downtown, and remember, this is a Lakers team that at the beginning of the season was historically bad when they looked like a season was going to be off the rails, but they righted themselves and have been an average 3-point shooting team, a respectable 3-point shooting team. They really struggled from outside against a team that shot 40% essentially, but took 53 threes. If you're the Warriors, normally that's a recipe for success if you're Golden State. But the Lakers able to play inside. They were tough. They knocked down some mid-rangers. It seemed like they were able to get to that free throw line and knock down elbow jumpers. Both LeBron was getting there. D'Angelo Russell, that's where he loves to live. And they played with great energy. And it's one of the things I've been lauding the Lakers for ever since they made those trades. And even when they were terrible at the beginning of the season, I don't know if you remember Arky, Shea, but in that first week or two where everybody was knocking Russ and everybody was knocking the Lakers, I did come to their defense a couple of times and said, yeah, I know they suck, but if you watch them, they're really scrambling defensively. They're playing hard for Darvin Ham, and it's not something we could always say in past years. And they've been able to keep that DNA and now plug in other guys, and Look, the Warriors move quickly. The Warriors can get physical at times. They're not just a finesse team, even though they've got Steph Curry, and that kind of lends this air about them being finesse. We know they're not. Kevon Looney, 23 boards again, despite the Lakers doing everything they could to keep him off the glass. Draymond Green is everything but a finesse player. But the Lakers able to give as good as they got and really able to control the rim. They kept Andrew Wiggins from dominating inside like he's done. They kept Kevon Looney. He was able to get rebounds, but not able to get easy putbacks, which is where he was kind of feasting against the Kings. And this is a really interesting dichotomy of styles because the Lakers love to play inside and they'll go outside when they need to. We know the Warriors would rather knock down threes, but they certainly have the capability to play inside. The Lakers were the team that fouled the least all year, got to the free throw line the most. Now, is that the LeBron effect and the Lakers effect, and the referees love to swallow their whistles and then on the other end call everything for LeBron? Yes, absolutely. There's some noise in there. But Golden State was the opposite, getting to the free throw line very infrequently because of their jump shooters, and I think they were the number one fouling team. So Lakers getting to the line 29 times, making 25 of those 29 free throws. The Warriors got to the free throw line 6 times, Arky, Shea, in game 1 at home. 6 times.
That's a lot. That's not. No. You're right. I'm sorry. That's not a lot. It's not
yeah. Are the referees rigging the system for LeBron and the Lakers? That'll be the cry. But tellingly, when Steve Kerr was asked about the disparity, and he was not being tongue-in-cheek as Steve Kerr loves to be, he did say, he's like, no, I thought the refs got it right. They were fine. We didn't get to the free throw line. We weren't aggressive enough. Lakers got there when they did, but that's a testament to the rim protection that LeBron and Jared Vanderbilt and Anthony Davis have now provided the Lakers, that people have just stopped trying to get to the rim. This is going to be an interesting series. Remember, the Warriors 44 wins, the Lakers 43 wins. They were not far apart as far as seasons go, even though we feel like the Warriors should be such huge favorites.
Yeah, what is this technically? What, a 6-7 matchup? Is that right?
Isn't that crazy?
Yeah,
isn't that crazy?
6-7 matchup in the
semifinals.
In the semifinals, and it's and it's not Sacramento from days gone by, right? It's it's actually a really couple great name franchises. I agree with you. I think there's a great matchup in this series as far as how these two teams play. I think obviously if Golden State is able to do anything inside, which is, we were one game in, but it was a slog game 1 to try to be able to do so.
Yeah,
that they'll be very effective to be able to even open up more from 3. But I say, like we talked about this before, if this is the matchup that we get into the semifinals, it's a good basketball matchup, right? Like it
was a fun game. It was a fun game, and I don't care what the jerseys said. It wasn't just I'm pimping the big market teams. It was a well played, fun basketball game. I would suggest one adjustment if I'm Steve Kerr, and I'm sure there's going to be a few adjustments, but the Lakers were really packing it in, except on Steph Curry and Klay Thompson. They were kind of daring Andrew Wiggins to shoot from downtown. Of course, Kevon Looney's not going to take any from there. And Draymond Green, they're going to let do that all day. The Warriors kind of did the same thing where they packed the paint and they dared the Lakers to knock down some threes. The Lakers could not cash that in game 1, and yet they still lived in the paint despite packing the paint by the Warriors. So I'm going to make the adjustment that the Warriors were forced to make in that first round series against the Kings when Draymond Green decided to be Draymond Green. He had to come off the bench when he came back. Move Jordan Poole back into the starting lineup. Let's speed up the pace here. The Lakers do love to play fast, and the Lakers do and have feasted all year off turning turnovers into baskets. The Warriors, as always, are one of the top turnover-giving teams. So again, the Lakers have some built-in weapons here. But to me, let's speed it up. Let's get Jordan Poole back in that lineup. Draymond Green will be helpful, but you don't actually need his defense if you're going to put Andrew Wiggins on LeBron to start, which they gave plenty of looks that way, and if Kevon Looney is matched up with Anthony Davis. Let's go with that. Let's make D'Angelo Russell and Austin Reeves defend a little bit more than they had to, where you could hide them otherwise on a Draymond Green. Yes, Jared Vanderbilt's going to be phenomenal defensively, as he was on Steph Curry. The Warriors need Curry to probably be up around 40 points instead of 27. They need Klay Thompson to have an even bigger game. But that's where I would go. Is that a panic move in game 2 already in game 1? Coming off at game 1 and you're at home? I don't think so. But this is an evenly matched series, and the Lakers are to be taken seriously at this point. The 7th seed means nothing. They are to be taken seriously.
That pacing, by the way, is what stressed Golden State so much last series. So if I'm Los Angeles, I take a strong page out of that book and say, let's do everything we can. Let's make these, at Golden State's always had this reputation of being a little playful with the ball, right? Like they're a little loose with it. And so let's take advantage of some of these opportunities and let's get out there and run force the issue. So
it's one of the great things about having Anthony Davis and LeBron, even at this stage of his career, that they both are built like centers, but they both run the floor phenomenally well. And then you have a guy like Jared Vanderbilt, probably the best motor in the league right now. D'Angelo Russell gets down the court. Austin Reeves has been phenomenal at being a facilitator in the open court. And coming off the bench, you do not have a true center that you're trotting out there. It's been Rui Hachimura, a little bit of Wenyen Gabriel, otherwise Troy Brown. Their bigs play small when they need to. And I mean that getting down the court in the right way. And then they play big when they have to as well. So the Lakers are a mobile team that is tough and fast. And you've got 2 first ballot Hall of Famers anchoring the thing with just enough gas in the tank for right now.
Let's talk about the team that is destined to not only win the East, but the NBA championship. That's my New York Knicks, who rebounded nicely in game 2 after a less than stellar performance in game 1. They even the series 1 game apiece as they head off to Miami. I'm not one of these guys that says, oh, I want to beat the best. I need everybody to be healthy to play. If there's no Jimmy Butler, cool by me. Right? Very cool by me.
That is the pragmatic decision at this point.
I have no problem because Jimmy Butler was strong in game 1, messes up that ankle at the end of game 1. The last 5 minutes, he was really kind of ineffective. He was felt like more of a decoy on the court in that, but still Miami pulled away when the Knicks probably should have not let that happen in game 1. But in game 2, you get a better performance from Julius Randle, and you go the whole game without having to see Jimmy Butler and worry that he's going to be a decoy for you. And they get that big win. Joel, this does feel like as Miami goes, Jimmy Butler goes. This is not like other teams like Philadelphia can win a game or 2, maybe even 3 without Joel Embiid if they need to. We saw Milwaukee was able to win without Giannis. Some of these teams can get away without their star playing throughout. But, Joel, you riddle me this. Is Miami, their postseason fate, completely tied upon Jimmy Butler's availability?
All logic would say yes. And it's not just that Jimmy Butler is out. It's that 2 of their 3 stars
Tyler Herro.
No Tyler Herro, who's a really fantastic player and fits what they do. But I cannot write off these Miami Heat in any way now until they are dead and buried in the ground. The autopsy is complete. I want concrete sealed over the top, and I'm still not convinced that an undead hand is going to come shooting up out of the dirt like so many horror movies, because that's what the Miami Heat have been. They have been the undead here. You cannot kill them and get rid of them. For all of everything that you just said about game 2, and it was a well-played game by the Knicks. It was really nice to have Julius Randle there and effective. And Miami Heat's missing, Hero. They're missing Butler. They're missing Victor Oladipo, who was a helpful player off the bench when they needed some punch offensively. They lost the game by 6 points, right?
Yeah,
they were up at halftime. I mean,
there's a lot to be said. There are people that are out there that think that without Jimmy Butler and obviously without Tyler Herro, who we don't talk nearly as much about, that the Knicks should not have been in that much of a game with the Miami Heat. And there's something to be said about that.
Yes.
But we see it happen over and over and over again that these NBA teams are deeper than we sort of give them credit for. We just don't know the names as on the tip of their tongue. But I'm kind of with you on this. I kind of think that New York Knicks team, despite having Tom Thibodeau playing a little bit a closer to the vest conservative type game, that should have been more of like what Boston did to Philadelphia than it was to just sort of squeak out of that game with the win.
It is absolutely a testament to Eric Spoelstra, and it's a testament to the coaching philosophy of, I will play all of my guys on this roster. If you're on the roster, I will find you minutes, meaningful minutes. It might just be for a week. It might be here or there. It might, whatever it is, but you will get into games during the regular season. We're going to see what you can do. We're going to get you on tape. We're going to be able to break that down and coach you up and develop you. There's the old school coaching approach that up until this year, Tom Thibodeau, for example, would follow. Doc Rivers was a big one about this too. You earn your minutes. I don't play you unless you earn your minutes in practice. And what that would translate to was 8.5 guys playing all year unless an injury would happen. Except when the injury happened, usually at a critical moment in the playoffs, now you're plugging in a guy who literally has only been a practice player all season, and you're asking him to step it up. He's not equipped really to do that. There's the other philosophy that says a regular season game is a teaching moment the same as any other. And if we drop a couple games along the way and you as a player make some mistakes, so be it, but you're going to learn from those mistakes. If you don't learn from them, then yes, you might not be in our organization all that long. But otherwise, you're going to get in those games, you're going to be ready. And that's what you see with the Miami Heat. They continue to plug in guys, whether it's Duncan Robinson, who's been in and out of the rotation, Hunter Highsmith, in and out of the rotation all year. Caleb Martin has been in the rotation, but not necessarily a big minute guy, and suddenly he plays 38 minutes as a starter and gets 22 points. They come in, they execute, they know their job. That was long a Greg Popovich philosophy, and you see it coming here with Eric Spoelstra. And it's a huge credit to Miami. Yeah, New York, you would want them to dominate more, but I don't think it was New York shooting themselves as much in the foot as it was Miami just competing their butts off. Is this sustainable? That's the $1 million question. How long can you go without Jimmy Butler, especially if Julius Randle's ankle is fine enough, and especially as Quentin Grimes starts to work off some of the rust? Emmanuel Quickley's been really, really quiet in the playoffs here. In fact, only played 9 minutes. He's not shooting the ball well, but does that mean he's due? Are the Knicks due to walk into Miami in one of these 2 games and just run away with it? You would think so. But then again, Milwaukee bounced Miami in game 2 in that first round series, just absolutely killed them, and it looked like the momentum was going somewhere. And the Bucks never won again. So I'm not cursing the Knicks. I'm just saying, be careful. Like, you got to put these Heat away. You have got to put them away and not let them into close games and not let the series be close or long.
I like this Knicks team's chances to win a close game in a bunch of these. And I think all of their wins in the series are going to have to be within 10 points. I think they're all going to be tight games, even though people will suspect some of them should be more, depending on how Jimmy Butler, whether or not he plays. In fact, I was just reading that he seems like he might be relatively healthy enough to be able to play in game 3, which is Friday, I think.
He's gonna gut it out. I mean, he doesn't have to be all that healthy. He just has to be usable, and he will play.
Well, he didn't gut it out in game 2, bro. Chacho.
I don't think he was usable at that point,
Yeah.
And
he's got all the way till Saturday. I was wrong. He's got all the way till Saturday to get ready, and that's a Tuesday, Saturday, right? That's a long time to sort of get yourself healed up for an ankle.
It's perfect,
Yeah. Sadly for him and for them, it's perfect. Sadly, we have to pay attention to weekend games and primetime matchups. In fact, that's a 2:30 Central, so 3:30 Eastern tip for that game. Sadly, Joel, it works out nicely for Miami. Yeah, I'm with you to a degree. I think the Knicks are the better team in this series.
100%. The Bucks were the better team in the last series too.
But that's one of the things I would mention. But I'd also say that the Knicks last series, Jalen Brunson, every time they got on the court with Cleveland, was the best player on the court. If Jimmy Butler is 85%, 80% or better, we've seen him right now in the run he's on. He's the best player on the court. So if you have 2 relatively then even matched up teams, and I still think the Knicks are better overall.
Yes, they are.
you tend to want to lean toward the team that has the player playing the best. And we haven't seen Jimmy Butler throw out a dud yet this postseason.
No, but now having to rest
maybe
being hurt a little bit.
That was my last point I was going to make.
Yeah.
That maybe coming off of this injury, which he collided with Josh Hart at the end of game 1, didn't play game 2. You're getting pretty near a week that he didn't play in competitive basketball that sort of means something for him. And we know there's a different playoff Jimmy Butler than there kind of is sometimes regular season. Like, he just goes bananas. Maybe for the Knicks, you're looking at a rustier Jimmy Butler, and you could take advantage of that. He'll knock some of that rust off by game 4, but game 3, it may take him a while. And I think that's where the Knicks need to take advantage of, if that's there, as much as possible. But I do think the Knicks are just as physical a team as Miami is. I think they're deeper than Miami is. And I think over a 6 or 7 game series, that will show, unless Jimmy Butler throws up 50 burgers all the time again, which he can.
A couple other things in favor of the Knicks here. In game 2, 50 rebounds to the Heat's 34. Yeah, Jimmy Butler being present.
Rebounds wise, like they've had a great run, and they've been a masterful defensive rebounding team this postseason so far.
Yeah, and that game 2 was without Mitchell Robinson being impactful. 21 minutes, was in some foul trouble, just 6 points, 5 boards. He I thought was the most impactful player in that Cleveland series. Brunson may have been the best on the floor, but Robinson was the most impactful because you could not get him off the offensive glass. So he's probably due for something even bigger here. RJ Barrett, who was really quiet early on in the Cleveland series, was kind of in a slump, has worked himself out of that. He's been really aggressive, slicing to the basket, where he's a very good player with that. Knocked down 5 of 9 threes. Julius Randle shaking off some rust, but not having to carry the load all by himself. The Knicks are balanced. And like I said, Emmanuel Quickley is due for a big game here at some point. Obi Toppin didn't score in game 2. There's a lot of things that can go better for New York, and the template is there. Like you said, just stay on the glass, get extra chances, bully ball inside. Yeah, the Heat want to play that way too. They want to play tough and physical, but New York is a team that can punch exactly as they get down low, and maybe even more so because, like you said, more bodies to keep throwing in there and more talent out of the top 9 guys who are getting minutes.
Yeah, so we'll see how game 3 goes in Miami on Saturday. And finally, Joel, let's wrap up with Denver Phoenix. Maybe the most shocking surprises of this first round, or second round, I should say, so far, is that very quietly we're into game 3 on Friday night, and Denver leads 2-0 and looked really good in game 1. In a slugfest, looked really calm, confident, and good in game 2. Going to Phoenix, Joel, we mentioned that once Kevin Durant went to Phoenix, that they look like to be one of the prime contenders. They're clearly part of the Final Four in the West. Is Denver just a tough matchup and a bad one for Phoenix? And this just turns out to be maybe closer to Denver's year than we were originally thinking, even though we thought it should be. We just haven't seen it yet.
I think it's too early to call. I loved what I saw from Denver, and they defended the heck out of the Suns in game 2. Phoenix shot 6 of 31 from downtown, very uncharacteristic for a team that trots out Kevin Durant, Chris Paul, Devin Booker, and even somebody like Damian Lee, who played 26 minutes, I think was top 3 or 4 in three-point shooting percentage on the year out of qualified players. So the Suns have plenty of weapons, and everybody was cold. But Denver has been a quality defensive team. It's kind of come and gone at different points. It's been a big bugaboo with Coach Mike Malone. But Nikola Jokic has been masterful. Jamal Murray, who was masterful in game 1, only gave them 10 points in game 2. And yet Aaron Gordon, 16 points, 14 from Kentavious Caldwell-Pope, including 4 of 4 from downtown. But here's the thing. I saw a lot of Denver's energy, a lot of their defense, a lot of their back cuts, their big threes. It was really pumped up by the home crowd. Though they were feeding off of each other. It was great. And Denver's always been a pretty solid place to play at home because of the altitude. The crowds are usually good. Denver just did a really good job of controlling these 2 games. I want to see, does that template travel now? Does it travel to Phoenix on the road? Denver was 34-7 at home, but they're a 53-win team. I don't have the math in front of me, but that means they were, not as good on the road, right?
Yeah.
I'll pull up the standings here.
Yeah, I don't.
They were 19-22 away, which is average.
There. This Phoenix team is immensely beatable by the right team.
Mm-hmm.
And I think Denver, when we talked about this sort of being their possible year, even though we thought a couple years ago could be it. Like if it wasn't going to happen this year, when's it ever going to happen for them? Right? The West was a little bit down as far as the top end's concerned. And now you're seeing not only injuries, but top teams going down in the West. So it's opening up wide openly for them to be able to try to get through to the finals for this time. And I mean that in terms of matchups. I thought Memphis would be a headache for them. They're not going to be an issue. Both these teams were pretty cold in game 2 overall. Both these teams defended really, really well in game 2. Neither one of them really were that impressive. And Phoenix shot like 20 more shots than Denver did in that game and still lost by double digits. Some of that's coming away at the end with free throws, but not a ton of it, right? So, Joel, let me I have it in front of me. 95 shots, 87 points. That's
5 of 5 from the free throw line. And Phoenix was. Oops.
Yeah, so 95 shots, 87 points, take 5 off of free throws. Not the best, right? Not the best overall throw. And listen, Denver only shot 76 times. They shot 101 in the first game, and they ran away with that one against Phoenix. I don't know. I see what you're saying about not being able to, say until we see the other team try to defend home court, see what happens. It's going to be tough for me to go against Phoenix go against Denver in this one. I think there is a metal here that's different for Denver. I think Kendavius Caldwell-Pope has been freaking good.
He's having a nice run.
Aaron Gordon's not lighting it up crazy, but he's having fine, good games. He had 16, but the night before,
and he's playing bully ball too. He's taking smaller defenders, whether it's Durant or especially Okogie, any of the bench guys, Torrey Craig. As soon as they rotate on him, Aaron Gordon looks like he's packed on some pounds for this season to be more of a true power forward. And he is just taking guys into the paint, working the baby jump hook. We know he still has the athleticism to get up and slam. But he's just been really good at doing his job. Yeah, and this is great to see of a guy that formerly in Orlando had to be like the man and wasn't ready for it. But slot him in as your 4th best player.
This was exactly what worked out for him. Yeah. Right? Those 16 points you don't think is a ton. That's of 97. By the way, 39 was scored by Jokic in that game. And that was on 8 shots. Not Jokic's, but Aaron Gordon's 16 on 8 shots. This Denver team, I think, is built a little different. If Denver gets to Golden State, winner of Golden State, LA would be sort of a fun matchup for them. But I think for Phoenix, I think this is trouble. I think this is real trouble for Phoenix. And I thought if Phoenix could have gotten one of those ones in Denver, that I was probably going to think Phoenix was the better team. It's not uncommon to see a team in the first game on the road get punched in the mouth like they did, but in the second game, for their response to be so hard and so bullyish on defense, and have the home team also respond with that bullish team and be able to come away and pull away from you in that series. I'm trying to see what the quarters were. Yeah, it wasn't until the 4th quarter that Phoenix really got sort of run out the building there. Only scored 14 points in the 4th quarter, which is, Joel, correct me if I'm wrong, a low number. It's a low number. It's a low number of points, no matter what era of basketball. If there is a shot clock era game being played, 14 is still low. I think Phoenix is in a lot of trouble, and I think Denver's going to win this series. And I don't think they sweep. I think they'll end up winning at home, but I don't think this gets to 7 by any stretch.
I will say this about Denver. Last season, not only was Jamal Murray hurt all year, and Michael Porter Jr. was not back and right, and so there were some built-in excuses. But over and over, we said with the Denver Nuggets, they don't have a lead defender. They just don't have a lead defensive guy. So during the offseason, they went out and got two of them. They got Bruce Brown, who comes off the bench and does literally a little bit of everything. He is Denver's Josh Hart. But then you get Kentavious Caldwell-Pope, who has played those type of minutes before for some really good teams in the past. And now it allows the Nuggets, especially against a Kevin Durant, they've got body types to throw at him. There are certain teams that really struggle against KD because he's just such a freak of nature. I mean, he's taller than most centers, got incredibly long arms, but has such fluidity in his hips. He can play as a guard, the shooting. But Aaron Gordon and Michael Porter Jr. do not get outsized by Kevin Durant. And then you get to bring Jeff Green off the bench, give him a shot as a veteran who's seen it all, who played on the same team as Kevin Durant back in the day in Oklahoma City. You still get to try Bruce Brown. They don't really put Pope on Durant, but you could if you had to in a pinch. Instead, Kentavious Caldwell-Pope gets to go chase around Devin Booker. But you have options between him and Bruce Brown now that are not overtaxing Jamal Murray. And yeah, I know Chris Paul is still out there, but they're letting Jamal Murray just play on Chris Paul one-on-one and taking their chances there, knowing that Paul may give you one retrotastic game where he kind of dominates, but he probably can't do it for a whole series at this stage of his career. And I think that gamble is paying off. And here again, like for the Suns, DeAndre Ayton, really solid center. Bismack Biyombo, good defensive center. Neither of them have had any answer for slowing down Nikola Jokic, but who has? And my final thought here for Jokic. I'm curious to see now that he doesn't get the MVP, where there's a whole bunch of chatter out there about whether he should. Jokic is a guy who kind of lopes up and down the court and sometimes gives you a wry smile, but otherwise has kind of a blank look on his face most of the time, and you don't see a ton of emotion. But a lot of people have said there's a lot more emotion under there than he lets on. And he is a guy who routinely gets technicals that kind of come out of nowhere where he just blows up. I really would be curious. And if I'm Mike Malone and I'm the guys in Jokic's camp and I'm his teammates, I'm in Jokic's ear about how much he's been disrespected. And I'd be curious to see what an FU game looks like from Nikola Jokic, because I'm not sure we've really seen one of those before. But he's so good without that, I'm a little bit scared about what that would look like. Maybe that's not who he is as a player, but to me, you can kind of come back and give an MVP caliber performance by playing angry here and playing to dominate anybody who's in front of you. Not just like, yeah, you want the team win and that's Jokic's biggest thing, but to dominate and remind everybody that Embiid's a good player, but a mistake was made here. We'll see if Jokic does that.
Well, we got that award, Wednesday night? Thursday, no game for him. Friday is the game, and they haven't played since Monday. It's a lot of time to be building up to get yourself a nice 45 and 20 game stored in the old bucket there. If you're interested in going and doing that on the road and saying, oh, that other guy's your MVP, don't worry. I got a couple on my own. You'll see why. Give
me an iconic game 3 Jokic and go up 3-0 on the Suns, and then you're playing with house money from there. Let's see that happen. The Nuggets really need that. They do need to get to the next round.
Would love to see sort of a killer instinct like that from Jokic at a time where killer instinct we've not really seen much of in his career so far, despite being so supremely gifted and talented and being able to obviously win a couple of these MVPs already, and also being on a stage where more and more people are going to be able to see you do that, especially see that first game after the MVP where a lot of people thought, man, wow, we couldn't just keep giving it to white people, huh? Like we had to give it to somebody else. Really. Thanks, NBA. Thanks in your activism. Just stick to the basketball.
Tongue planted firmly in cheek.
All right, Joel, that's going to do it for us in the Charles Oakley episode. How do people find this?
You can find us on Spreaker, Spotify, iTunes if you want the audio-only version. Of course, if you want the video version, go to YouTube where you should like, share, subscribe, ring the bell, do all those good things. And we're going to be back next week. And I don't know, maybe one team has advanced by next week to the conference finals. Are we going to see more than that? I don't know.
Well, at least NBA doesn't stop spacing these out so much. Maybe we'll see one.